You have, a Democratic Party that can't stop talking about Trump.
Yeah.
When your adversary's in the midst of committing suicide, there's no reason to commit murder. The result is the same. Donald Trump is in the midst of committing political suicide. We're watching it. We're seeing the poll numbers. We're seeing people's reaction. We're seeing independents scurrying away from him. The suicide is in progress.
We know of new methods of attack. The Trojan horse, the fifth column.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, comrades and compañeros, welcome back to another phenomenal episode of The Fifth Column. Kmele Foster, as you might have noticed, the third of The Fifth Column. Mm. He's kind of like Ringo in a way.
Wow.
He's kind of Stu Sutcliffe.
Or Pete Best.
That's worse.
Yeah, are we firing him? Well, Ringo, Stu, Kmele, whatever his name is, sprained his ankle?
Yes.
Yeah.
At a kid's playground.
Yeah. So he says, Matt and I got together and we said, we're going to replace him. So we have a replacement for Kmele. He's trying out.
Nice.
Governor Chris Christie, your first tryout. You've never been on camera before.
No.
You don't have a combative nature with people. So welcome, Gov, to the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. And I didn't know that spraining your ankle could be an excuse for not showing up.
We didn't either.
I actually stubbed my toe last night really badly in the middle of the night. I went up to go to the bathroom and I came back and I stubbed my pinky toe on my right foot. I'm actually limping. And if I knew that was an excuse to cancel,
exactly,
I probably would have done so. But I thought, for the Fifth Column, you got to show up.
Exactly. You got to show up.
The Willis Reed of podcasting.
Exactly. This is how you become a successful prosecutor, governor. You show up.
That's right.
And you know what? He'll never watch it, so I feel totally comfortable with making fun of him. Well, thanks for being here. Where do we even begin? We're in a war.
With an apology that it's too early to start clanging back shots.
I know.
Yeah, because
I
hear if we have some tequila around,
that he will get drunk.
I will do that. Yes.
Is it okay if we mention that before we started, you talked about doing 140 tequila shots while on the Colbert Show?
While on the air, yes, on national television.
So it's not a secret.
No, it's not. It's out there.
Have you watched your performance of that night? And are you ashamed of it?
I'm not ashamed of it, actually. I mean, and my children, because I'm not a drinker. That's the joke of it, is that I really don't drink. And so it was to give Colbert a hard time for only offering alcohol to his female guests.
Yeah.
And so then when I challenged him on that and he put the alcohol in front of me, I felt like I had to go for it.
So it was feminism that drove you to it. It was like equality.
Or his faux feminism, would be more accurately put. And so my kids were actually really thrilled about the fact that
drunk dad,
the dad would actually throw him back.
You became very cool at that moment.
No, let's not go too far.
Yeah, but you're not a drinker.
I'm not.
You're from New Jersey, right?
You're from New Jersey.
I am.
Some drinkers there.
Well,
I've seen them.
In my younger day, maybe I was more of a drinker than I am now, but not now. Not
do you
really.
like the gummies?
No.
You don't do that. Well, because, you were very big on the drug courts. You were very libertarian on the drug issue. So I figured maybe if he's not drinking, I don't know.
It's not for me.
It's not for you.
Just not for me.
Have you ever tried it?
No, I just know it's not for me.
Really?
I don't like regular gummies.
Let
alone the other ones.
Yeah,
so Haribo, is you were opposed to Haribo. Yeah, but you never tried smoking weed?
No, I did not.
Wow.
Part of that is because I'm an asthmatic and have been since I was.
Oh, okay.
That's a kind of sprained ankle excuse, to be honest.
Well, no, but I mean, I was really scared of it.
Yeah.
Because the asthma was really bad when I was younger, and so, my mother was a smoker, so she'd smoke around me all the time.
Yeah.
She really cared, and
and,
I'm wheezing, and I'm thinking to myself, and that's just from the secondhand smoke,
from the Terrytons in the house, right? I had the same thing.
Virginia Slims. Yeah.
So no drugs ever.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, it makes me an unusual New Jerseyan, and a particularly unusual one to lead in New Jersey. But nonetheless, there you go. That's how I wound up there.
How many people in Trump's cabinet have not done drugs?
Have not done drugs?
I mean, you mean this week?
Trump is
somehow
it
escapes people's attention too much that RFK was just out there dealing heroin.
Yeah. Well, he admitted it. Yeah. When he was did he admit that? Because it was when he was at Harvard, right?
Yeah.
But he said that he had been.
Yeah, I think he has admitted that publicly.
Heroin
Just like
it.
a week and a half ago, he's like talking about snorting coke off toilet seats.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, showed you that he didn't really, because you snort coke off the top of the toilet basin, not the seat.
Oh, okay.
Just to be clear about this. He did it off the seat.
Maybe he did. He's
wild.
He's wild. Yeah, I mean, he's dragging dead animals through Central Park.
He's wild.
We assume that he's a wild. Do you have any relationship with him? Have you ever met him?
I've met him. I don't have a relationship with him. I've met him a number of times, mostly in like green rooms of when we were both running for president.
Yeah.
I wound up in green rooms with him at Fox and at CNN a couple of times.
I've heard he's a very personable guy. We have a mutual friend that really likes him.
Perfectly pleasant guy.
Yeah.
The voice is somewhat disconcerting.
It's hard.
I couldn't spend a lot of time talking to him because
hard.
it just threw me off a little bit. But and you know, he's crazy. I mean, that's
and
the
he's
other
also
thing.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, and that comes clear. You know, there's some people who I've met over the course of my career who are, I know they're crazy, but they don't come off that way when you first meet them. They have a good, kind of shield that doesn't, not him.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's
like
very
from minute
upfront.
one, you're like, okay, he's
Wait,
not.
who are the people that you've met that come off as normal that you find out later are total nutbags?
Well, John Kasich.
Really?
Oh, yeah, John's crazy.
See, this confirms all my priors, so come on, give me more.
No, I mean,
we had a John Kasich conversation literally yesterday.
I
yes.
mean, so John will always come off as kind of, standard issue kind of political guy. But when you get to know John just he's off.
Like, give me an example of that. Yeah.
Besides the hand flapping, he's horrible.
He just says things to you privately that you would never expect.
Really?
And is convinced. One of those people who's convinced all the time that he's always right.
Yeah.
And so it's a little.
You find a lot of that in politics, though, right?
You find less of it than you would think, because most people, when they're in private, will go, I said this, but I'm not 100% sure of that.
Yeah.
But I act like I am. No, John.
You say this in a friendly, but you're friends with him. You're friendly with him.
Oh yeah.
So he wouldn't be surprised if you're saying that he's kind of nuts.
He would be surprised at nothing I say, I suspect.
Yeah.
But
nor would
no,
I. Yeah.
No. I don't think John would be surprised. And I think, John and I have known each other we've known each other now for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So I like John. He's a good man, but he's a little nuts.
Is there because you guys are sort of in the anti-Trump Republican lane, literally ran for president or tried to against him, and it didn't work out great. Are there personality characteristics that cluster there? You just had a conference last month, right, with a bunch of these people, the Joe Walshes of the world.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't think there are.
Yeah.
Because you have people like me and like General Mark Milley.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think there's a lot of character trait crossover between me and Mark Milley.
Well, you've both been insulted by Trump publicly.
Right, but I don't know if that's a character trait.
No, it's not a character trait, but that's a unifying thing of that.
Jeff Flake, too.
Jeff Flake is
That's everybody. Put
I guess
General
everybody.
John Kelly in there.
Yeah.
It's all how, where the character trait comes in is how you react to it.
Yeah.
So, there are people who get insulted by Trump who just keep going back for more.
Yeah.
And then there are people who get insulted by Trump and go, okay, I've had enough. And I would put myself and Milley and General Kelly, General Mattis in that category. Rex Tillerson would be in that category. Bill Barr would be in that category.
They stayed around for a bit, though, for the insults. Right. McMaster is another one.
Yeah, but eventually they just, when they go, they go.
Yeah.
There are those that keep coming back.
Yeah.
And Trump welcomes that. As long as you apologize, he welcomes it.
I don't even know if apology is necessary. I mean, I've talked to so many people and interviewed people on camera who have said the most horrendous things. I mean, for Christ's sake, his vice president called him a Nazi. And I don't even know if the apology is necessary. It's just some sort of, is it actual apology? Yeah.
It happens. It happens in private.
Yeah.
But it happens. It's demanded.
I mean, I talked to Bill Maher about his dinner with Trump. And I mean, it's not even an apology. I mean, he sued Bill Maher.
Yeah, sure. No, look, I've been on Bill's show a number of times and we've talked about it. Bill's in a different category, though.
Yeah.
Because if you're in media, Trump feels he has a right to insult you
and it's performance
anytime he wants, and it's performative. It's totally performative. And but he still wants your approval.
Yeah.
Like I have a theory that he's, there are a number of members of the media who he's so enamored with that he would love for them to show him approval. And because they don't, he lashes out.
Yeah.
But if they were ever to come to him and write a nice story or do something else, he'd welcome them back in the fold in 5 seconds.
New York Times gal,
what's her name? Yeah.
Maggie Haberman.
Maggie Haberman.
Totally.
Secretly in love with Maggie Haberman.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, like, and I tell Maggie this all the time. Like, he all he wants is her approval. He lives for her approval.
What a weird position to be in.
It's a question that's asked often because
she isn't giving it,
and she's not.
No,
she's
no.
never. I mean, but if a great New Jerseyan who has been, in some controversy, so we'll ignore that, is my old friend Olivia Nuzzi, would write these horrible things for New York Magazine about various people in his orbit, and people that who also knew her said, "How the hell does he keep inviting her back?" And I said, well, she's a young blonde woman is number one. But he had this thing for her where he would just keep inviting her back no matter how much she insulted him.
It's not hard. That part's
not
to figure
hard.
out.
Yeah,
if you're an attractive woman, you can almost do no wrong.
That is true in my life too, by the way. I will allow almost everything.
In that way, you are Trump-like.
I am Trump-like, and if I would go on a date and people were like, the Holocaust numbers are a little high, I'd be like, well, let's talk about it if they were attractive enough. If they were
how
unattractive,
do they have to be?
I would be like, you are a disgusting anti-Semite and walk out. But there's a certain barrier
beyond
there.
a certain threshold.
A certain threshold, I'll deny any war crime for you. Yeah,
that's Olivia Nuzzi is a interesting character to be covered by.
She is an interesting character to be covered by because she's very clever, and she has the phrase that I can't stand, high sort of emotional intelligence and how to get to people and befriend them and trust them. It's a great quality for a journalist.
Unless you're from New Jersey. Because if you're from New Jersey, you know that act.
Yeah.
You've grown up with that act.
Yeah.
And she actually showed up at my house one day.
Oh,
yeah.
Unannounced. Fortunately, at our house at the shore, and fortunately, I wasn't there. I was out doing food shopping, and my young daughter, who at the time I guess was 16 or 17, answered the door, and she doesn't know who Olivia Nuzzi is, and Olivia Nuzzi's there with like a box of crumb cake, and like, I've been trying to call your father, he won't talk to me.
Do you like crumb cake?
Well, yeah, from New Jersey. Everybody likes
all right. I don't know.
Right? She
from
knows
Massachusetts.
It's another Jersey thing.
It's a Jersey. I didn't even know that was a Jersey thing. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Crumb cake?
Yeah, she knew it.
Jason, did you know about crumb cake? Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't get outside of New Jersey.
No, we like to keep our things to our things. and so she shows up and she's like, you sure your father's not here? Oh. And she's like, no, he's out. He's not here. And my daughter's like, who are you?
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm his friend, Olivia.
Oh, my God.
And I want you to give this to him and tell him that if he takes it, that means he has to return my call.
Pretty good move. Did you take it?
Yeah.
Your 16-year-old fell for this?
She took it.
How are you raising this child?
She wanted to get her off the front porch.
She wanted to get into that crumb cake.
She was like, not bad.
No, she's like, she could have cared less about the crumb cake. She wanted to get this strange woman off the front porch. And she's like, okay, I'll tell my dad. I'll tell my dad. And close the door. And I come back later. And she didn't even know initially the person's name.
Yeah.
My daughter. And I'm like, it was Olivia Nuzzi.
Yeah.
Like, I just knew it. And then later on, of course, she called. I didn't take her call.
Yeah.
And went to voicemail. She goes, come on, I left the crumb cake in your house and you have to call me. I'm like,
Did your
That's
daughter?
a good move. I think she's trying. You got to respect the journalist. Come on,
intrusive.
No, that's a freak.
No.
I'm sorry. That's a freak.
Yeah.
If I'm not returning, look.
Again, hot. So
If I'm not returning your call, I'm not returning your call.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, she had called a number of times. I didn't want to talk to her. And did you show up at my house?
What's the worst? Because I can justify that, and I've known Olivia for a long time, so I'm an absolute an
what does that
apologist.
mean?
I'm an apologist.
Oh, God.
It is none of your business what that means. I don't have a
if you
wobbly
say
voice, so
so.
no one is interested. Right?
It's true. If you have a wobbly voice, and
you got a crumb cake.
we're
It'd be
into
great.
sexting.
Yeah, exactly. But give me an example of you've been in this business a long time. You've had a slightly adversarial relationship with certain parts of the press.
Yeah. Yep.
Who's the worst of among them? Hey, like these kind of examples, I think are interesting as a journalist and for listeners and viewers of how this stuff operates. Yeah, people show up at your house with crumb kick.
Yeah, like weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Who's the worst that I had to deal with? There's so many.
There's so many.
nominees.
I know.
But during a certain period of time, in my governorship, Michael Barbaro.
Really?
Yeah. Now Barbaro got
Been on this podcast before.
Yeah, Barbaro got
yes.
assigned to me
Yes.
right after I got reelected.
Yeah.
Kind of in preparation for me running for president.
Yeah.
They were going to have Michael Barbaro vetting me.
He says
And-
with contempt.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of what a jerk he was during that time. So I did a trade mission to Great Britain,
Yeah.
and Barbara came with me, and my staff and the business people that I brought with me who were engaging in the trade mission, we all stayed at this particular hotel. It was not like the Connaught. It was, like it was an American hotel, like a Sheraton or something like that, but it was really nice.
Yeah.
So we're staying at this hotel. Barbaro writes a front page story for the New York Times about, the lavish lobby and then this lavish breakfast, free breakfast that was offered to all the people in the governor's team
Yeah.
every morning.
Had he been to a hotel before? Because, they tend to do that.
Well, hold on, right? So he's writing about this lavish breakfast that these staff people don't pay for and all this that. I'm reading this story in the New York Times while I'm in Great Britain, and he's there. The next morning, I'm getting into the elevator from my room to go downstairs, and who gets into the elevator with 2 plates of food from the lavish breakfast, but Michael Barbaro.
Wait, he's bringing up to his room?
Yes.
Wow. That's the weirder part, by the way.
And I looked at him like, are you serious? I said, you get your ass out of here and go put that food back.
Yeah, it's
You're
lavish.
entitled to that food
Don't.
after you're kicking my ass on the front page of the New York Times. That was what Michael was like to deal with.
Maybe it was aspirational.
It wasn't about him being tough.
Yeah.
It was the hypocrisy.
So you don't listen to The Daily, I take it.
I do not.
You do not listen to The
I do not.
Yeah.
Now, years after that, I've gotten to know Michael and we get along fine.
Yeah, I like him. Yeah.
But during
That's the
that
guy, yeah.
period of time,
Yeah.
he felt like it was his mission. I just gotten reelected with a big vote and all the rest of this and going to run for president. So he just felt like it was his mission to take me down.
Yeah, that's kind of the relationship. I mean, Matt wrote an anti-John McCain book. So you have a...
But it wasn't my mission to take him down. It was my
Yeah.
mission to understand him. And in many ways, I got to like him better through the process. But
Yeah.
he was a curiously unexamined person from the standpoint of his philosophy because he had this huge biography that sort of dazzled people. And then...
And journalists loved him, too.
Journalists loved him. Well,
Yeah.
journalists kind of... I mean, you probably have an antagonist relationship to journalists, but we were talking just before we started rolling about how everyone has a fond memory of you just like screaming at teachers' unions at town halls.
Yeah.
But you know who else loves that?
Yeah.
Journalists love that.
Journalists
and
love
wives.
Yeah.
Every wife that we know has that memory of you. Like,
Well, and look, I got along with most people who covered me, now but when I thought they were being a jerk, I would tell them, so if we're at a press conference and, they ask some asinine question, I'm like, that's stupid. You're better than that. Or I would often put journalists in the penalty box. Like if they did something that I thought was unfair, they'd go in the box.
I mean, Trump does this obviously in a very different way.
Yeah.
I mean, where he just insults people.
Yeah,
and
no,
they-
I
but-
wouldn't do that stuff. I would just I wouldn't take a question from them.
Yeah.
So they'd be like, raising their hand in the press conference. I'd be like, I didn't see them.
no more questions.
Yeah. Or no, I just go like to you 4 times in a row, and you're raising your hand.
But you wouldn't yell at them and say fake news, and you're...
Oh, not fake news, but I would. If I,
but something else.
No,
yeah.
but I would say like if I thought like that's a stupid question.
Yeah.
Like really, is that what you want to ask me? Okay, I'll answer. But unlike Trump, I would answer it.
Yeah.
But I would preface it with the fact that I thought it was stupid. Or if I said we're doing a press conference at an event and just on topic questions, like not today on asking me if I'm running for president, can we just stay on topic? I would look at it and go, they would ask then, are you running for president? Like, on topic, please.
Yeah.
We're on topic today. You got plenty of time to ask me other things. But I think that if you talk to most of the people who covered me, both in New Jersey and nationally, they would tell you that they had a good relationship with me.
So
Go ahead.
We were talking a little bit earlier about kind of the gap between what people say in person and especially if they're in politics. We hear this all the time, of course, with Trump. We don't work in politics, right? We talk to politicians.
But we see it when we talk to politicians
we talk
in
to
the cameras
politicians
on
all the time too. Can you help everyone watching and listening who don't work in politics and they see the kind of obsequiousness of especially elected Republicans around Donald Trump? What the hell is that? Some of these
North Korean thing? Yeah.
Literally, like, did you see the report from today or yesterday about how like all the guys in the cabinet are now wearing shoes that Trump?
Right. Yeah, I saw that. It was in the Times. Or the Journal, one of those.
So like Marco Rubio is wearing shoes that don't fit him? Like $140 floor shines?
$145 floor shines. Let's start with that.
It seems a little weird. Can you kind of help us understand how that happens?
Marco looked like he was wearing Dutch clogs because there was like about a foot and a half in the back there. It's a great photo.
Which, if the story is true, means he lied about his shoe size, because Trump asked, according to the story, it started with Rubio and Vance in his office, and he looked down and he said, "You both have shitty shoes.
Yeah.
What size shoes are you?" And I think Vance said he was 12s or 13s.
And Rubio
Marco
was like
said he was
14.
Marco said like 11 and a half or something.
Little
And so
Marco,
if they don't
now.
fit, then it's Marco's fault, because he wanted to, and one would wonder why you would want to fake a larger shoe size. But nonetheless, we'll leave that. Look, what it is for these guys and women, because there are plenty of women who are acting the same way in my party. They care more about their title and their perceived power than they care about actually doing the job. And you see this all throughout Washington now. You know, Lindsey Graham is the best example of it. And we were talking about John McCain before. I mean, John McCain is spinning in his grave, given all the time he spent mentoring Lindsey Graham, and to watch Lindsey Graham now just, sucking up to Trump, when in fact, when you get Lindsey in private, he's like, yeah, I know he's nuts. Yeah, that's crazy.
But I mean, Lindsey is getting what he wants right now, or close to it. He's finally getting in war with Iran. He's been talking about that for 1,000 years.
Well,
Rubio too.
Yeah, but the point is that, like, at what cost to you personally? And that's what people see. They see that, like, these guys are willing to do or say anything. Watch a Trump cabinet meeting; they're falling over each other to tell him how great he is and how, the greatest president of all time, and
they
all the rest of this.
Use Donald J. Trump. Lindsey had an insane interview on Fox News on Sunday. I don't know if you caught it. It was like, Donald J. Trump is resetting the world. That kind of level.
But it's that, and that happens with most of these folks. And I really think it's because it's not as much about Trump. It's about their fear of Trump, and their fear of Trump is not personal, it's political. So, they don't want a primary where Trump goes and endorses somebody else and they lose their job.
Like Dan Crenshaw.
That's what it's all about. That's it. That's
like
all
Peter,
it's about.
Meyer, Dan Crenshaw.
Any elected Republican who comes on our show, they immediately get bounced.
Yeah, and Tom Tillis, who's been great recently, is brave because he can be. I mean, that's the question.
He's brave because he's not running.
He's not running. I mean, but that's
he wasn't brave when he voted for Pete Hegseth.
He was not. No, and I suspect he probably wouldn't now if the situation was similar.
Too bad. We don't get do-overs.
We don't get do-overs, but this is the thing that we talk about a lot in this show, is the lack of ideology in the party beyond Trumpism, or what Trump said the other day, MAGA is what I say it is, which is one hell of a movement.
Which means it's nothing.
Which means it's nothing, right? So when you have people up there trying to save their jobs, trying to not be primaried, changing their minds on things like tariffs, for instance. I mean, these guys who aren't even elected officials, the Stephen Moores, the Larry Kudlows, these guys that were great free traders that we agree with. I mean, we're on a sort of libertarianish bent of this show. And you see them just changing what they believe in. This is the reason you get into politics, because you believe in things. And you have people that are doing this that no longer believe in anything. So I guess the question to you is, what you said, my party, it's still your party. The Republican Party doesn't appear to believe in the things that I thought it believed in 10 years ago. Now, they failed on these things all the time, but that's the nature of politics, right? Compromise, et cetera. But now it's like, what does it mean to you to be a Republican? Can you be, I'm a Northeast Republican, I'm a New Jersey Republican? Does that even exist in Donald Trump's party anymore?
It does, but it's hard. You take a lot of abuse for doing it. And I'm not just talking about from the president, which I take abuse on a regular basis from him, but it's also believers in him inside our party, inside my state, who just believe that they have to acquiesce to whatever he says. And I thought you put your finger on it when I heard him say the other day, MAGA is what I say it is. And I think he was talking about Tucker Carlson, right? So MAGA is what I say it is. It's because he one time he called me a rhino and I said, I don't know exactly what that means, but I never donated to Hillary Clinton. Yeah. Anybody who looks at Donald Trump's history knows that there is only one thing Donald Trump believes in, and that's Donald Trump. There's nothing else. So every decision he makes is based on one criteria. Do I think this makes my life, my standing as Donald Trump slightly better today? Mm-hmm. And by the way, if I do that today and tomorrow, that same position would make my life slightly worse, I'll abandon it and do an about face. And the only thing I think I've seen over the years that he doesn't change on are tariffs.
Tariffs, yeah.
That's it. It's the only thing he truly believes in. Yeah. Beside himself are tariffs. And in the 80s, it was against Japan, and now it's against everybody. So, look, I've known him for 24 years. I've known him very, very well. I mean, let's not forget, I was the chairman of his transition in 2016.
We tried to,
right? I know, but I can't. I got to be honest, right? I mean, I was trying to help him. Mm-hmm. But there's no helping him.
But you must have known that then. I mean, this guy doesn't change character over time.
No, but I didn't know it to that extent because remember, the context within which I knew him at that point was basically as a real estate developer in New York. Yeah. And so you're like, okay, well, real estate and developers in New York act in certain ways. But God, if he gets elected president, the weight of the office, the majesty of the office will change him. Mm-hmm. No.
If he had offered you a cabinet level position, he did?
He did any number of times. He offered me labor secretary twice. He offered me Homeland Security Secretary. He offered me White House Chief of Staff in 2018, and I turned them all down.
Were any of them tempting?
Chief of Staff was tempting just because it's Chief of Staff, right?
Yeah.
But then I thought you're Chief of Staff to Donald Trump, which means you're really not Chief of Staff because Jared Kushner's Chief of Staff. Yeah. So
you have a a relationship with that family, though.
Well,
let's be honest about your relationship with the Kushner family.
Let's just say I'm maybe the only person in America who
put his dad in jail.
Well, I'm definitely the only person in America who put his dad in jail. Yeah. And one of the only people in America who have any title or position who were willing to tell the truth about them.
What is the truth about them?
Reprehensible people.
All?
Amoral. Look, I don't know his brother. But I know the father, the mother, and Jared. And
Jared too. Why is how is Jared reprehensible? I don't know. Tell.
He is the father with a softer voice.
Yeah.
He's the same. There's no difference between he and his dad.
And people who don't know
that. He would admit that.
But people who don't know who's his father. I mean,
the ambassador to France.
Yes. Yeah. But tell us who he is as a person.
Well, his father was at the time when I prosecuted him in 2004, the second richest man in New Jersey. Only David Tepper was richer in New Jersey than Charlie Kushner. Mm-hmm. And we were investigating him for tax fraud and for FEC fraud. And by FEC fraud, Federal Election Commission donation fraud, what he was doing was as most real estate guys do, they have a multitude of partnerships. They don't have one company. They maybe have 100 that own each individual piece of property. He would write checks from each one of those properties at large numbers, even though he had other partners in those properties, the other partners being his brother and his sister. And he would forge their names onto attributions for those donations so he could make larger donations and make himself more important with the political people he was donating to. That's against the law. And so we called the sister in to the grand jury to ask her whether she had ever made any of these donations, which she had not. Well, when he found out that his sister willingly went into the grand jury, what he did was he hired a prostitute to seduce his sister's husband, videotaped it. And then on the day of his sister's son's engagement party, an engagement party that he was going to attend. He had the videotape delivered to his sister's house so she could see her husband having sex with someone else.
I mean,
and he did so anonymously.
We've all been there. I mean, you thought the crumb cake was bad.
Yeah.
Jeez,
Right,
that's amazing.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So the story goes that the sister came to us when she got the videotape. And
she knew what was happening, obviously.
Well, she thought she knew.
Yeah.
I mean, it was delivered anonymously from a place in Canada.
Mhm.
And but she said to me, "This is my brother. This is Charlie." And I said, "How do you know it's Charlie?" Now her husband is sitting there. I mean, you want to talk about a beaten dog, right?
Yeah.
He's sitting there. And she says, "How do I know it's Charlie?" She goes, "Charlie plays on people's weaknesses." She put her hand on her husband's shoulder and she said, "Billy has a weakness. Charlie played on it." And she pointed to the videotape. And so I have the husband sitting there, and I then make the husband tell the whole story. The story was that he would go to the same diner every morning for breakfast in New Jersey, in Somerville, called the Time to Eat Diner. And
guess where I'm going for breakfast tomorrow?
And one morning, this very attractive young blonde woman came to his booth and said, "I hate to bother you, sir, but my car's broken down. It's been from out of state. It's been towed to the dealership to get worked on. I'm staying at a hotel down the street here.
It's a Penthouse Forum letter.
Could you
please give me a massage?
Could you give me a ride?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he says, "Okay." So he gives her a ride.
By the way, my weakness
By the way,
too. I want
to
to help out a woman.
You were the one who was saying you were willing to forgive war crimes.
Yeah,
for someone who's
well,
very
yeah,
good
but also if her car got towed.
give a ride. It's like nothing, right?
She's in a tough situation, this prostitute.
So now, to be fair to him, he did not know she was a prostitute.
Is it better or worse that he didn't know?
I don't know. But I don't know. To be accurate.
Yeah. Just want to be accurate. Yeah.
So he then took her to her motel, which, again, because you can't make it up, the name of the motel was the Red Bull Inn.
Oh, yeah.
God.
Yeah.
So he
got his
takes her
wings.
to the Red Bull Inn. She invites him upstairs. Interestingly, he says no. He declines. And now she's a little like, now what do I do? Because I have a job to do here that I'm being paid for. $25,000, by the way. And she says, "Well, look," she goes, "if my car's ready tomorrow morning, and if you're at that same diner, do you think you could take me to the dealership?" And he said, "Well, I don't know if I'm going to be there or whatever." He's hemming and hawing. And so she says, "Well, here's my cell phone number. And can I have yours?" So he gave her his cell phone number. Next morning, he's there at the diner having breakfast, and she calls and says, "Can you come and pick me up? My car's ready," and whatever. And he goes, "Okay."
He's had 24 hours to think about it.
And
By the way, a very resourceful prostitute. Yeah. When
$25K on the line.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
Yeah.
So she gets him to come there, and she goes, "By the way, I'm in room whatever, 210 or whatever it was." And so she goes, "I'm almost ready. Could you just come up and get me?" So then he went up.
And then what happened, you saw, because it was on video.
I never watched the video.
Why not?
Because I wanted to always be able to say I never watched the video.
Yeah.
You're a better person than me.
My prosecutors watched the video.
A lot.
Apparently a number of times. But
We're going to freeze it right there.
And they kept saying to me, "You got to watch it." I don't need to watch it. You guys tell me what went on, and then I can go from there.
Doesn't drink, doesn't watch Kushner porn. You're a
you
good man.
Watch Kushner porn?
Hell no.
Okay, thank
you. Depends.
Thank you.
Although I am questioning.
And he's not a direct Kushner, to be fair to him. He's
married in.
He's
but
to a Kushner.
I am questioning the prostitute because she couldn't get him on the first time. So maybe I wouldn't want to watch it.
Look, maybe you wouldn't. But I've seen her.
Yeah.
And she's attractive.
Yeah. Okay.
So they videotape it, and as a public service announcement. Do you do public service announcements here?
Sure. This whole thing is a public service announcement.
Let me just remind everybody out there.
Yeah.
The camera was hidden inside the alarm clock.
Oh.
Wow. So that's a spy job there.
Okay. So
when you're at the motel.
So just so you know,
Yeah.
if you're going to engage in activity like this and want to take note, unplug the alarm clock and put it in the closet.
Yeah.
And
I think he's 80 on that betting right
by the
now.
way, it's very sexy beginning.
No. This is a public service announcement.
Let me unplug the alarm clock.
This is an attempt to prevent crime.
Yeah. You're
That's what I'm trying to do.
You're stopping crime.
Yeah, I'm stopping crime before it starts. And so nature took its course.
Yeah.
And I said to him, okay, and I broke the man code here. I want to admit that.
Yeah, okay.
Because the Fifth Column needs that kind of
We
honesty.
need this honesty.
I broke the man code because when he was done, I turned to him and I said, now you said that she gave you, now this happened 6 months earlier. I said, you said she gave you her cell phone number. And he's like, yeah. I said, do you still have it? He just stared down at the table and started shaking his head. He goes, yes.
Yes.
Of course he does.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I said, I need that. So one of the helpful things that they did on the videotape was they date and time stamped it. So we got her number. We subpoenaed her cell phone records for that day. Well, right after the tape goes off and he leaves, she makes a call to another number. So then we subpoenaed those records. They're connected to a private investigator in Schenectady, New York. Then we get his records. Right after she calls him, he calls a phone that is registered to the East Orange, New Jersey Police Department. So we call the East Orange PD and say, who is assigned this cell phone, the PD? Turns out it's the private investigator's brother. We get those records, his call to Charlie Kushner. And it turns out that he provides private security to Charlie Kushner, the cop.
Did the cop?
He's off duty.
Did he go to jail for this, or did he prosecute
He cooperated.
He
cooperated with the government and joined Team America. As
he
we
joined
call it.
Team America,
and helped us with the prosecution. So we had,
and that man is now the ambassador to France.
He's now the ambassador to Albania, the cop, and the ambassador to France is. But so we had him. I mean, it's like in baseball lingo, tinker's to ever's the chance.
Yeah, exactly.
We had the connection, and we then executed search warrants on the private investigator, the cop, and the prostitute. The private investigator lawyered up immediately and said, like, I'm not telling you guys anything. Go to hell. The cop folded immediately, said, yep, I did it. Charlie Kushner asked me to do it. He completely gave it up. I'm sitting there as these things are being executed, getting the reports in, because you do it all at one time so nobody can tip anybody else off. And the bureau calls me and says, the prostitute won't let us into her apartment. And I'm like, you have a search warrant.
$25,000.
Hey, you have a search warrant. Like, knock the door down. Like, get in there. He's like, it's a really nice apartment. It's on the Upper East Side of New York. We really don't want to knock the door down. I go, well, put a couple of hundreds under the door. I don't know what you have to do, but get in the place.
They care about the door of the nice apartment?
They apparently that day they did.
Wow.
And so she let them in, and they showed her a picture of Charles Kushner, and this man. She goes, yeah, he's the guy who hired me.
Yeah. And so that obviously in this backstory, which weirdly a lot of people don't know. I mean, people in the political world.
20 years ago.
It's 20 years ago. But obviously you are the head of the transition in 2016. There's going to be some interfacing with Jared Kushner, I'd imagine, right?
Well, much to his chagrin, yes.
Yeah. And that's just unsaid.
No. He
says things to you.
Oh, no. The day that Trump was naming me, he went into Trump's office and said, you can't do this. And made the argument against me in front of me.
In front of you?
Oh, yeah.
And what was the argument?
I'm immoral. I'm a bad person.
And you're sitting there.
Oh, yeah. And said that, it should have never been prosecuted. It wasn't a crime. It was something that should have been handled by the rabbis.
Oh.
Because it was a family dispute.
Oh. That's going to fuel some anti-Semitism right there.
And I was thinking to myself, like, I didn't know that Title 18 of the U.S. Code was under the rabbi jurisdiction.
It's rabbinical code,
but apparently it wasn't. And I just sat there and didn't say anything. And finally, Trump looked at me and said, are you going to say anything to defend yourself? I said, no. I said, I want to defend myself to him.
Yeah.
Doing my job. And by the way, I looked at him and said, by the way, your father pled guilty to all 18 counts.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Look, there's some credit to Trump in this that he said, all right, fine, get out of here, Jared.
Anyway. Yeah. He named me anyway, but then of course he fired me.
Yeah.
Because Jared just continued to pound me.
But that was Jared, you think, that precipitated that firing?
Oh, I know it was Jared.
Okay.
Because both Donald Trump and Steve Bannon told me it was Jared.
And Steve Bannon's a chatty guy too.
He happens to be.
He happens to be.
And so, like the relationship with the Kushner family. Now, who knew, by the way, let's remember, in 2004, Jared Kushner, I think, was in college at the time. Or soon to be out of college, and who knew he was going to marry Ivanka Trump? Mm-hmm. Like when you think about how that all went, you prosecute this guy. He was a prominent guy, but never thought it would have any impact on my career other than having done the case. Well, then he winds up marrying Ivanka Trump. Donald Trump winds up running for president. Donald Trump makes me the chairman of his transition. But the entire behind the scenes thing is that the son-in-law is trying to, off me the entire time.
And now we have one of the worst ambassadors to France in history. Like he's like constantly causing diplomatic rows in France by weighing in on domestic affairs.
I saw that recently.
Criminal affairs.
He was called to task for that.
And look, I think the single biggest reason Jared got into the Trump White House was to ensure that his father would be pardoned. Mission accomplished.
Do you give him any credit for the Abraham Accords?
Sure, I give him credit for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. I mean, Jared's not a dummy by any stretch. He's a smart guy, and he's got some skills. I mean, not nearly as many as maybe he thinks, but he's got some. And I think he had an agenda. And I don't mean that even in a negative way. I mean, in the Trump White House, that's actually a positive. It makes him an outlier. Yeah. He had an agenda from a policy perspective of things that he thought was important. The Second Step Act, right? I mean, I totally was in favor of that, and I helped him get it passed and worked on it because I think second chances are important, and he, of course, that all came from his father.
Yeah.
That was what drove him in that regard. Was
most criminal,
watching his father in prison.
Most Republican criminal justice reform comes from people who have, like Conrad Black. Do you remember Conrad Black?
Sure. Chuck Colson.
Chuck Colson, who Watergate convicted. I mean, Conrad Black came out and said, "I can't believe he's Canadian." Actually, renounced his citizenship, didn't he? So he could be knighted in the UK and all that stuff. And he came out and had some pretty good ideas about criminal justice reform. But in your background here, I mean, let's look at the DOJ in this administration. I mean, it is a nest of vipers with all of these people and all these competing people. But when you look at both like familial corruption, I mean, we saw a story the other day, it was yesterday, that the Trump kids, they just happened to invest in a drone company
I saw that,
that can do something special that would be great for the DOD.
I wonder if we'll buy those drones.
I don't think so. Yeah. I think they'll probably say there's an emoluments thing. But if you look at this now from the perspective of both a prosecutor and a politician and somebody who ran for president, I mean, what do you make of this DOJ and the weaponization of it against so many of Trump's enemies? And I got to say, we've talked about it a lot on the show. I find it to be one of the most repulsive aspects of this administration, even though it's attacking some people who I think are kind of repulsive themselves. Here in New York City, for instance, John Bolton is a good example. We just had him on. He couldn't talk about it very much. But what do you make of it?
To me, it is the single most destructive thing about this administration. And I don't think it's even close because this is going to be very, very hard to fix. Once you have put in the public's mind that the party of a prosecutor determines how they make their decisions versus the facts, how do you fix that? How do you change it? And I think that what he's done with this Justice Department is, like, people talk about threats to democracy. I don't believe these election things are threats to democracy. I think it's an overstatement of it. Doesn't mean I favor what he does, but I just think that Democrats in particular get themselves, just so worked up in righteous indignation about the threat to our democracy and he's never going to allow another election. It's all bullshit, but his attack on our institutions that form the foundation of our democracy is what disturbs me the most. And the Justice Department is the single most important one.
But the counter argument from a lot of people is, it's been, I mean, certain people, if they're honest, can say it's a scale thing, that this has happened under previous administrations. It's been politicized in the past. There's nothing new about this.
No, I think that's wrong. First off, I served for 7 years in the Bush 43 administration. I never once, not once, got a call from the White House or from Main Justice to tell me to either do an investigation or to not do an investigation, to back off or to, push the gas. Not once. And so, I would dispute that with the Bush 43 DOJ. People say that existed in the Obama or the Biden DOJs. Look, I don't know if you're in the Biden DOJ. My problem with the Biden DOJ was that they couldn't make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it took them nearly 3.5 years to decide whether to prosecute what happened on January 6th is just insane.
Yeah.
And so I think people, because they don't like what the result was, right? Some Republicans don't like the result of the indictments that came of the president out of the January 6th stuff or out of the classified documents stuff. They don't like that. They say it's weaponization,
yeah.
right? My point is it was incompetence. And I think Merrick Garland was one of the most incompetent attorney generals of my lifetime. He couldn't stop wringing his hands. And I think that's part of the problem when you put a judge. When you put a judge as attorney general after they've already been a judge, big mistake. Because judges are all like, I'll take my time. I'll consider all sides and I'll decide when I'm ready to decide. Well, when you're a prosecutor, you don't have that luxury. And that delay, justice delayed is justice denied. And we saw that happen on the January 6th stuff because it set it all up for that. So I understand.
Was there an over prosecution on January 6th? I mean,
No.
the number of people that went to jail for exceptionally long times for, the one that I always point at was the dopey head of the Proud Boys, Enrique Tarrio, who got a 21 or 22-year sentence, and he wasn't even there. He was in Baltimore because he was told to stay out. And it just seemed like there was some amount. I mean, the pardons of this are unconscionable. And especially, the connections of these things. We see these jihadist loons throwing things at a rally, quote unquote rally. There was like 10 people there. And the neo-Nazi, and the guy I'm not giving him a name he wouldn't take himself, was a pardoned January 6th guy.
Yeah.
Shockingly. But was there a point though, that lawfare thing that so many people on the right were harping on about is going to, in a way, produce this backlash. I'm not excusing it because I think it's wrong and I can't stand it, but the lawfare existed, we're just continuing it.
I don't think any other president other than Donald Trump would have acted in the way he acted in response to what happened to him.
Yeah.
I don't think any other president we've had in my lifetime would have reacted by saying, I'm going to make Pam Bondi the Attorney General of the United States, and I'm going to order her to investigate certain people and tweet out about where are these people? Why aren't they being prosecuted? And having people like Jim Comey, who I'm not a fan of, but did Jim Comey deserve to be prosecuted? Not as far as I could tell. Now, maybe there are facts that were, but guess what? The grand jury and the judge who reviewed the case probably had some problems with it.
The ham sandwich rule has taken a beating this year.
And because you know what? The ham sandwich rule was never true. It's
spoken like a prosecutor.
It just wasn't true.
Exactly.
Look, but the proof is in these cases. The proof is that they have thrown a number of ham sandwiches up there, and the grand jury's gone, I don't think so.
Shut down almost all of them.
Now it's hard to fail in that way when there's no one else in the room to argue the other side. The grand jury, the prosecutor's the only person in the room. Imagine how bad you have to be to be the only person the only lawyer in the room. Let's start with that. Because there are no lawyers on the grand jury, right? So you're the only lawyer in the room. You're making the argument about why this is a crime, and you lose. Imagine how bad you have to be.
But the woman in Virginia, wasn't she like the beauty contestant who was like a real estate lawyer?
Halligan, yeah.
Yeah. And I saw something the other day, and I try to never mention something where I only read the headline, but there was something about her being disbarred or under some sort of investigation in Florida. So not only, and I don't know the details of this case, but it's very clear from what I saw of her, is that they have these fugazi lawyers who went to, this is my cousin Vinny level. They're just bad lawyers that are making these arguments.
Insulting my cousin Vinny.
That's true. He triumphs in the end.
He triumphs in the end. But no, look, because in this Justice Department, people are not selected based upon qualifications. They're selected based upon loyalty.
Yeah.
Are you going to do what I tell you to do?
And when you say people, that's the top, but it's who else? Like from the outside, we don't necessarily understand the architecture of the Department of Justice. Who is being subjected to loyalty test? Like, what's a number?
There have been hundreds and hundreds of lawyers who have resigned because they had loyalty demanded of them.
And we've never seen anything like this. Is that correct?
Not even close.
Yeah.
I'll give you my old office. We have 150 assistant U.S. attorneys in my old office. Fully a third have resigned since Trump has been president in, 15 months?
And is there usually some turnover when an administration turns over? So this is completely
It's a non-political.
Because people, the only political actor in the U.S. Attorney's office is the U.S. Attorney.
Right. So
Right?
those people will have some turnover.
Yeah, you will definitely have turnover.
Yeah.
Like I did it for 7 years. Obama got elected. I left.
Yeah.
Because I knew I'm not going to be Obama's pick. So, okay, it's time to go. But everybody else there are professional AUSAs who are hired in a completely nonpartisan manner. I hired over 120 lawyers during my 7 years. I never once asked anybody what their political party was. Not once. And if they brought it up, it made me not want to hire them. Because anybody who brought it up would usually say, I'm a Republican. I'm like, okay, well, I don't give a shit. Because that's not what this job is about. So there had been, and it doesn't mean that you don't have partisan people within the department. There are people who have partisan opinions. Of course they do. But the rule has always been, and it's been enforced, you check it at the door. You do not let it impact the decisions you make. We now have a Justice Department that requires you not to check it at the door. It's no longer not only not suppressed, it is now demanded that you be partisan.
But one of the weird,
partisan in one direction.
In the weird thing about the partisan loyalty test, and this is across, and I don't know if this is true in DOJ, I presume it is, but this is across the administration. Not only are you asked, are you fully on board with everything in the MAGA universe? You're asked to affirm a lie, right? What do you think about the 2020 election?
Right.
And if you say that it was fair and square, as every judge and every sentient human being has said, which is true, you don't get the job.
That's
so
right.
not only that is you have to lie about something to get the job if you're a smart person and believe in the truth of this matter, which is very troubling.
That's why I'm saying this is the worst part of the administration.
How do you roll this back? I mean, because that stuff, does it get into the institution in the sense that, is it going to be hard for the next person in line, if they're not a MAGA person, to roll this back?
Or even to just not do the same thing in a different direction.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Well, look, what I've said about this is if you have any hope of restoring, and you care about restoring the Justice Department, whoever the next president is, they need to pick an attorney general of the opposite party. You need to say, okay, if I were to get elected president, I would say, I'm going to find the Democrat who I trust the most, who I believe in the most, and I'm going to make that man or woman the attorney general.
Yeah.
I think that's the first step. And then that person, their charge from you is going to be stop the nonsense and restore us to where we were. And my guess is it would take 2 terms to get that done. Because remember, too, the professional people who have stayed in the department are twitching. Like they're not necessarily going to believe you when you first come in and say, no, it's back to old business. They're going to wait and see because they've been traumatized by this.
But do they even exist? I mean,
yeah, they still do.
They still do, because there's one of the things that, in the first Trump term where you have a lot of people playing the MAGA role who don't believe it, and we'll talk to Matt, talk to myself, talk to other journalists, and say, sotto voce, like, this is all fucking madness. And then the second Trump term, so many of those people have been replaced by true believers.
Yeah.
Because there's a huge new crop of people that actually believe in this kind of MAGA vision, as clouded as that vision is. They believe in Donald Trump as this kind of savior figure. That's not true in the Justice Department, where there's career professionals that keep their head down. But have they all been replaced by these flunkies?
Not all. There's just too many of them.
Yeah.
The department's just too big. And this would apply to any department in the government. They're just too big to have gotten rid of everybody and replaced everybody. What they've done is to do it at not just the senior levels, which often happens when administrations change, but also down a couple layers. So the people who are left are people who have figured out a way to just keep quiet and not be noticed, or they become, their subject matter expertise is so indispensable that even some of the crazy people who are running the Justice Department right now go, okay, I can't get rid of this
But there is
guy.
a flunky problem.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. And so, I think that it's the reason Justice Department's worse than any of the other departments is because it also affects the third branch. So what's happening now with judges is when you were in the U.S. Attorney's office, you'd go into court and you'd make a factual assertion to the court. 99.9% of the time, the court's going to buy it. They're going to say, they represent the United States. They're not going to lie to me. As opposed to an argument, they might disagree with an argument, but an assertion of fact, that's not the case anymore. Judges are not accepting on face value assertions of facts by the government because of what this Justice Department has done. How long is it going to take these lifetime tenure judges to get over that? So it infects the remaining branch of the government that's supposed to be nonpartisan and supposed to be, completely objective. Those folks are feeling like this Justice Department is lying to them, disregarding, in my state, they discovered they absolutely ignored 52 judicial orders that were given to ICE by New Jersey federal judges, and they just ignored them, refused to comply. And so the impact that has on the judicial branch is now they're not going to give any deference to the government. And that's a bad thing because in the end, the Justice Department is there to do the right thing. The Justice Department is in the main out there getting rid of violent criminals, getting rid of fraudsters and all the rest to protect the public. If they start not giving any benefit of the doubt to the government on this stuff, it's going to affect everyday life in a much more profound way.
And it's going to just increase the amount of conflict, actual and political, between the branches of government, which
Absolutely.
is not a good thing. I look at all this, and I'm not a Republican nor a Democrat, lifelong independent. And, we were talking about RFK earlier. Like, he got confirmed by the Senate.
Yeah.
So did a lot of really, really weird, bad people who say and do, or just incompetent and hilarious people, or however you want to put it, but who you just offend the actual sensibilities of a lot of the Republican senators voting for them. And the numbers are completely lopsided in national politics as opposed to state and local, which is absolutely different, or it is just a separate entity. But when you look at all of that, like, it gets a rubber stamp in the Senate in confirmation. There are no incumbent Republicans like in Congress left who haven't, who have any future in the party at all unless they've kissed the ring. That you just can't do it.
Well, I mean, it's also scandal doesn't matter anymore. I feel bad for people who in 2016 opened up their new Oppo research shop because it doesn't fucking matter. It's like our ambassador to France hired a prostitute to entrap his brother-in-law. I mean, that is the wildest thing, and no one cares. I mean, RFK, I noticed this before his confirmation. I looked at his podcast, and it was
he
like
shouldn't
a couple.
Have a podcast.
I think they do AI to make it sound like someone more coherent. I haven't listened to it, but one of the most recent episodes was on chemtrails. This is mentally ill, conspiratorial lunacy. And I mean, that was Matt pointed this out to me, the subtitle of your book about conspiracy nuts, and they've taken over the party. They've taken over the commentariat. It's like there is no Oppo research because no one gives a fuck.
So to questionify this is just, how do you escape the conclusion that what the Republican Party on a national level really, really needs to do right now is fucking lose?
Yeah.
It's just lose really badly because they behave this way. They are turning the Department of Justice into this weaponized thing. They've just abdicated the legislative branch as a thing. Yeah. Why do we want them to win?
Well, here's the problem. The problem is then when you look at the Democrats, like, look, if I were the head of the DCCC right now, I would take every Democratic member of the House and every Democratic House candidate and send them to Turks and Caicos till November. Like, just send them there. Yeah. Plenty of sunscreen, give them, a daily per diem out of your campaign account to keep them fat and happy down there. Because,
nice breakfasts.
Yes.
Crumb cake for
luxury
breakfast.
Yeah. Send Barbaro down there too.
Well, I think Barbaro should go down there with them. And so you have, a Democratic Party that can't stop talking about Trump.
Yeah.
I had a political science professor in college who, when I was graduating, said to me, "You're going to run for office someday, and you're going to be really good at this. So just remember one lesson. When your adversary is in the midst of committing suicide, there's no reason to commit murder. The result is the same. And Democrats can't understand this. Donald Trump is in the midst of committing political suicide. We're watching it. We're seeing the poll numbers. We're seeing people's reaction. We're seeing independents scurrying away from him. The suicide is in progress politically. And the Democrats go, no, wait. I have to kill him, right? Adam Schiff must get the knife and plunge it in. Please stop. Stop. If you want to stop the craziness that's going on there, let the craziness speak for itself. But instead, they can't do that. And they have to come up with either crazier shit to do and nuttier stuff to say, like defund ICE. Really? Is that what we want to do? We want to defund ICE. So we're not going to have any immigration or customs enforcement of any kind. We're just going to let it rip. It's so stupid. It was like defund the police. Okay, so we're going to have no police. All right. They come up with these ridiculous, stupid ideas and people get scared. The people who are scared of what Trump's doing, they look at these guys and go, And that's what the Kamala Harris campaign was. Kamala Harris should have won that race easy. Easy. Instead, she spends all her time talking about Trump and what a threat to democracy is. And when they ask her, what would you do different than Joe Biden? She goes, nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's at 25% approval. So that's probably not a good strategic move to make.
And also I have to correct you. When they would ask, she didn't do any interviews.
Yeah, she did.
She didn't do an interview.
Wouldn't
Wasn't
go on
asked
Rogan.
about.
That was. I do have to say, as a ABC News contributor, that was on our news show, The View.
Yes.
Right.
And she was asked that question.
It's very generous of you to call it a news show.
Yeah,
okay,
it is under ABC News.
Yeah.
I'm just
is it
saying
really?
the facts. Yes.
Oh dear.
So they, Sonny Hostin tossed that softball up there, thinking, okay, hit this one out of the park. Give us something.
Surely you've rehearsed this one.
Surely everyone on your staff has told you the 2 or 3 things that you could say without insulting the president that you would just do differently.
Yeah.
So my point on, do they just have to lose? I think it's something different and bigger. And that may happen anyway. But Donald Trump has to leave. And he will leave in 2 years. And that will markedly change everything.
Will it change? Will that change look a hell of a lot different after the presumably bloody midterms?
It will start to look that way. I don't think it will be finished. But what will happen is he will get worse after the midterms because there'll be 2 factors going on, neither of which he's ever dealt with. He won't be able to run Congress around the block like he's been doing, and he hasn't dealt with that in his second term. And he'll be a lame duck for the very first time. He doesn't know what it's like to be a lame duck. I know what it's like to be a lame duck. Anybody who's been in an executive government position and you're in your last 2 years of your 8 knows what it's like. You, for 6 years, are the focus. Everyone's eyes are focusing on you like I'm looking at you right now. And in the last 2 years, they're looking there. They're looking past you. They're looking to who's next. Who do I have to suck up to next? Who do I have to fight next? Whether it's your party or a different party. That's what they're doing. He can't imagine that scenario on a personal level. He cannot imagine not being the center of every conversation, not being the center of every room that he walks into. Can you imagine when they have the first presidential debates for 2028 and he's not on the stage and millions of people are watching other politicians? Mm-hmm. It's going to lead him to be crazier than he is right now. And so all those things will contribute to people going, okay, I've had enough. Now, the big question is what comes next? And a Republican Party that has been a party of one for the past nearly 10 years, there's not another one out there.
No.
He is sui generis. He is absolutely one of a kind in the history, the 250 years of this country. There's been no one like him. And so now
Huey Long maybe. But what is your role in this going forward in politics?
Continue to be who I am. I mean, I don't know that I'll ever run for anything again, but I'm not going to be quiet. And I haven't been during all this time. And I think that you need to give people courage. You need to give, like, if I can do it now, certainly when he's waning, others can do it. You know, I mean, he says stuff about me all the time. attacks me, said I got fired from ABC News back in December at some rally in North Carolina.
He suggested investigating him.
Yeah.
Bridgegate.
Yeah. And then my old staff put out his tweet from the day the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 in our favor.
And he said it was a great vindication, right?
Great vindication.
Yeah.
He never did anything wrong, et cetera. So that's Trump, right? So, it is, I'm just going to continue to do what I do, say what I believe. And to the extent that helps get my party to a place of sanity and of principle again. I mean, the biggest thing you mentioned earlier, there are no principles left in my party. The only principle is Trump. There are nothing consistent.
But what if the principles kind of come to the surface post-Trump and they're realigned in that populist way, though, which is very different from where I am in, a free market guy, a free trade guy, things like that, reasonable immigration and reasonable immigration enforcement, just kind of normal middle of the road stuff, that leans to a sensible Republican. If it comes to the point where they've so infested the party and they've realized it's much easier to make the case that the government should give you things, that, the invisible hand of the free market, that's a complicated argument to make. People like making these easy arguments. And I fear that that's where the Republican Party will remain, even without Donald Trump. I mean, is it your party then? And at what point do you say, fuck this, I'm not a Republican anymore?
Well, I'm not prepared to do that yet. And
you said yet, though. This is a possibility.
You could lay out a scenario where I'd say, okay, I can't be a part of that.
J.D. Vance, running against Rahm Emanuel.
Well, look, I don't make any secret of the fact
he's
that
going to vote for Jill Stein.
I don't make any mystery of the fact that I like Rahm a lot. We work together. I have great respect for him, and so I've said, I got asked at this event I did in Washington a week or two ago, is there any Democrat that comes to mind that you could consider voting for? And I said, Rahm.
Yeah, he's not going to win. Is the kind of
right. Well, that's the problem. I probably won't have an opportunity to do that. But look, I think I think it's going to be a much more complicated thing than the way you're laying it out. People don't believe in populism; they believe in Trump, and people don't believe in tariffs. If you poll tariffs, the majority of the country is against tariffs.
Particularly when they make the connection to their bills going up.
That's right. And they have made that connection now, right?
Yeah.
So you start to go through the things that Trump is doing right now. The war in Iran is not popular with the American people.
Out of the gate, it wasn't popular,
right?
Which is rare.
Right. So that wasn't, and I would argue it's because he didn't do his work.
Right.
Did no work. No,
right?
No.
If you do your work as president, this was like COVID. How did Trump get less popular during COVID? He's the only governmental executive in America who got less popular in COVID. Every governor saw their numbers go to the 70s and the 80s during COVID.
Even those who absolutely didn't deserve it.
Exactly right. Like the governor of my state, where you had more deaths per capita than any state in America, and his numbers went up into the 70s, right? Because he just looked like he was doing something. And he looked like he was being reasonable about it and empathetic.
Yeah.
We had a president who was being unreasonable and unempathetic, right? So his numbers go down during that. My point to you is that philosophically, what people have bought over the last 10 years, Donald Trump, the TV star, and they're angry about a lot of people are angry about their position in life. They relate to his anger, and he plays off that. There is not another person on the political scene today who can do what he's done.
Yeah.
Who has the combination of celebrity, wealth, and his brand of charisma combined with a complete and utter shamelessness.
Funny and shameless is a good quality for a politician.
Yeah.
Because he is funny.
He is funny and he is completely shameless. I'll tell you a quick story. In 2018, he called, his club in Bedminster is about 20 minutes from my home. And he called me on one late Saturday afternoon and said, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, I don't have any plans. And he said, "Look, Melania is away for the weekend with Barron." He goes, "I really don't want to eat dinner by myself." He said, would you come and have dinner with me? And I said, "Well, Mr. President, it's a Saturday night." I said, "I don't do things without my wife. If I can bring Mary Pat, I'll come. But otherwise, we're going to wind up doing something." And he goes, No. God, yes, bring Mary Pat. The three of us will have dinner." So we went up to Bedminster and had dinner with him on the patio at the club in Bedminster. And he was talking to my wife about a story and was telling her about the position he was taking with this other person. And he looked at her and said, remember something, Mary Pat, if you say something enough times, it becomes the truth, whether it's true or not. When I say shamelessness, like I want to put a point on shamelessness. He looked at my wife and said, whether it's true or not, if I say it enough times, it becomes true. I don't think you can find another politician in this country who could pull that off.
There's a very important distinction there too. It's not if I say it enough times, people believe it.
No,
it becomes true.
That's a megalomania.
Yes.
That's a megalomania. Yeah.
That's my point, is that there are people who may think that if I say it enough times, people will buy my bullshit.
Yeah.
That's different because that's acknowledging that it's bullshit internally. That's not what he does. He takes what he knows is incorrect and convinces himself by saying it enough times that it is correct. That's what he did with the 2020 election. Because I can tell you, I was preparing him for debates in 2020. And
why do you do that?
He would say,
he fired you. He's an asshole to you. He calls you all sorts of fucking names.
Well, listen,
and then you go and help him.
No, but at that point, he had not done that.
No.
He had fired me.
He fired you, yeah.
But in the interim,
he'd never called you a nasty name by 2020.
He'd also been the president for
right.
Yeah.
But remember, in my mind in 2020, he had also at that time offered me 2 different cabinet positions and White House chief of staff. So it wasn't like our relationship was completely without him showing me respect. Whether you take it or not, if you get offered White House chief of staff, the guy obviously respects you on some level. And so I went back to help him. And he said to me during the debate break, he goes, I know I'm going to lose. I know it. I could feel it. Like, so the idea that he was scared to death of losing in 2020. So this idea that all along, as he says now, I knew I was going to win, I did win, is just not true.
He told you that apropos of what? I mean,
we were just sitting, like,
saying,
when you have a break in debate prep, like one of the times it came up was we were trying to argue, because in debate prep were myself, Kellyanne Conway, Bill Stepien, who was his campaign manager at the time, Jason Miller, who was his comms person at the time, and Reince Priebus. And he would say to us, and Hope Hicks, he would say to us, like, we were trying to convince him, stop arguing against mail-in ballots. Stop saying that they're fake and they're rigged, because lots of your supporters are elderly and they're scared to go out to the polls because they're scared going out to the polls will subject them to COVID. Like, you're hurting yourself. So it was in that context where he was talking about, so we'd be talking about that. And then he would say,
and it's kind of constructing the excuse while realizing you're going to lose.
Correct. That's what was going on. He was already figuring out how he's going to explain that he lost and that he got stolen from him by mail-in ballots.
How do you debate prep Donald Trump? Is that possible? I mean, the guy, you see it. And the question in a lot of ways is there a method to it? Because what it looks like, and look, it's what a good comedian does. Looks like they're telling the joke for the first time. It looks as if he is just, off the cuff and saying whatever the hell he wants.
Well, that's what makes him really good, because he's not most of the time. Every once in a while, yes. But debate prepping Donald Trump, I did it in 16 and in 20.
Yeah.
And I played Hillary Clinton in 16 and I played Joe Biden in 20.
Just put on a wig.
I did not, but I want you to go home tonight when you go to bed, close your eyes and picture me as playing Hillary Clinton and see if you can go to sleep.
You understand that I'm doing that right now, right? Yeah. It's making this very hard.
See, and you're awake and you will not sleep tonight when you do it. I guarantee you.
No, I'm sorry for twitching during this.
You're in for a sleepless night. But the way I did it, and I think he found it to be really effective, was, I would get in character and then soup them up like by a multiple of 4 or 5 and really go after him. And he liked it because it got him prepared. In fact, you could argue over-prepared for what he was going to confront on the stage. And after the second debate with Hillary, he called me from the stage after it was over and he said to me, that was easy. He goes, I had to deal with you for like 3 weeks of this shit. And he goes, she was nothing.
Because she's being a politician. Everything's very studied in her responses.
Yes.
I've watched those debates because I think it is one of the things that we'll remember in kind of American political history. He does such an insane job, but does it well. In that, cruising behind her and saying, "You'd be in jail," is one of the great moments in American. Doesn't matter if it's true, doesn't matter the context of it. She had no idea how to respond. She was stopped in her tracks.
No.
And that was something you didn't do to Hillary Clinton. And she was beaten on that, not on points, but on style. You
Right.
beat her.
No, and like so prepping him was very challenging. It was really hard because the hardest part of it was keeping him focused.
Yeah.
Was like just to get him to sit there for a few hours and go through things was really hard. So you needed to make it entertaining.
It's like a child.
So you
give
so
him the
you-
iPad.
So you would start like the back and forth would be very aggressive, and
Did you ever offend him?
Oh yeah.
What was the worst one?
Well, it was 2016, getting ready for the second debate, because remember in debate prep, we were prepping that Friday, and while we were in the middle of prep, is when the Access Hollywood tape came out.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, we're in the middle of prep, and Hope Hicks comes in and hands me and Trump the transcript of the Access Hollywood tape.
Oh man, you're the sparring
Let's
partner.
say the
Like, man, I
Washington
gotta
Post has
grab him by
that,
the
right?
pussy.
So
get
I'm
into
like,
it.
I'm reading this thing, and he's just like, it was the only time in all the years I've known him when he looked truly embarrassed. He was blushing.
Wow.
He was embarrassed, and
people started abandoning him.
yeah,
too.
and he came over to me and sat down next to me. We were waiting to get the tape because basically what we decided was, well, you can't make any response to this just from the transcript. You got to hear the tape, and so Washington Post had it, and the campaign basically said back to them, "Send us the tape." And they go, "Okay, but when we send you the tape, you got 15 minutes to give us a comment, or we're just going with the story." Okay, fine. And so as we're waiting for the tape to come from the Post, he's sitting next to me, and he says to me, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, not good," And he said, "What should I do?" I said, "Just you gotta apologize. You gotta just say like, look, I said it. It was." He goes, "But I don't know if I said it." He started to think, I don't know if I really said it. I don't. And then he started like, I could see the wheels going. And he was going like, and he starts telling other people in the room, "I don't think it was me. I think it was made up. I think they faked it," and blah 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 blah. And so he's now rolling on it. "Chris, you watch. It's not going to be me." And then Hope Hicks comes in with her laptop and puts it in front of him and says, "Okay, Mr. Trump, the tape is queued up. You just have to hit the mouse and it'll start to run." And he goes, "Okay." And a group of us are standing behind him, behind his chair, to watch. And he turns to me and he says, "You watch, Chris. It's not going to be me." And I said, "All right, great." So he hits the button and he plays. I'm telling you, it couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 seconds. And he hits the button. He turns back to me. He goes, "Uh-oh, it's me." And so
Isn't John Barron?
yeah. So it was in that debate prep. So now we have to prepare him for that question.
Yeah.
Right. So he basically comes up with the answer that he wound up giving, which was, "To the extent it offended anyone, I apologize."
Locker room talk.
Locker room talk.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just talked. Her husband actually abused women, and she was an enabler of that. So don't get on me, get on her. And I said, "Look, maybe we leave that last part off." I said, "How about we just look contrite, do the locker room talk thing, and don't bait her on that, because that could lead to a problem." And he said, "Worry too much. It's not a problem." I said, "Okay, well, let's do it then." So he says, "Okay." So Priebus is playing the moderator. He asks the question, and Trump gives his same answer. And then Priebus says, "Secretary Clinton." And I said, "Look, I was raised as a Christian, and my faith and my family taught me that people deserve second chances. But Donald, the way you've treated women over your whole life as objects, just lead me to not be able to forgive you for this. This is the way you feel about women. This is the way you treat women. And I can't forgive that. But one other thing, since you decided to bring up my husband, I think I have to say something to the American people about that. Look, I know, and all of you know, that there's been a lot of pain caused in my marriage, and there have been a lot of problems. But I stand here tonight as a proud wife and a proud mother and a proud grandmother, because unlike you, I don't treat spouses as if they're disposable.
Oh shit! Oh, Chrissy didn't go there.
and he looks at me and he says, "F you." And I said, "Was that for Hillary or for me?" And he said, "Both." And I said, "That's what she could do." I said, "So that's why I'm asking you not to bait her on this. You don't need to, and you shouldn't."
He didn't listen.
And he looked, he not only didn't he listen, he looked at me and he goes, "Chris, she's nowhere near as smart as you. Don't worry about it." And then that night he went on the stage, he gave the answer. And of course she gave some ridiculous bullshit response to it and didn't attack him and didn't go get him.
But that wasn't the night
that he
invited Juanita Broderick.
Yes.
And those.
Oh, yeah.
So it was not only to not listen to you, it's like, let's invite all of Bill Clinton's victims,
right,
bimbo
and
eruptions.
By the way, and you know, I didn't go to that debate for that reason. Like, I was not going to be a part of, you know, the Clinton victim thing.
That was weird.
So that's why he called me that night from the stage after it was over. And he said, "That was easy. Like, you know, like compared to what you did." And I told you she wouldn't do it. So
he was right in a way.
Well,
right?
The other thing about him is that his instincts are pretty good.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he executes it all the time in a way that makes any sense. But his instincts about people, in terms of who he can push and who he can't, and all the rest of that, who he has to pull back a little bit on, his instincts are generally pretty good. And with her, he just felt like she would never fully go at him, or wouldn't in a way that at all effective.
No, he has impressive like predator instincts with really bad political instincts, and it's like one of those is really useful, and the other one
bad and good politically.
Sometimes
it's a mix.
Sometimes good, but you know, I mean, you see so many
mix.
examples of it being bad.
Well, what happens is that his obsession with his image sometimes overtakes his political instincts. So like instinctively he might go, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't push on this." But then he thinks about himself first rather than the issue or the situation. And then he does.
But you have a relationship. Would you be surprised? Because I've seen this happen with so many people, that if he called you tomorrow and asked your advice on something, because nothing lasts very long with him. The offense doesn't last long.
I don't think that will happen unless I apologize first.
For
all the things that I've said, which are true, but that offend him.
But it's because people like J.D. Vance, who called him, you know, Hitler Part 2, apologize. Yeah. But not only maybe he apologized, but it was just a thing he cozied up to.
That's the first step.
Yeah.
It's a step process. The first step is to apologize. Then the next step is to display your loyalty in other ways. And
wear the shoes.
Wear the shoes. You're accepted back in.
Yeah.
And so, but like for me, I know it's not going to happen because I'm not going to do that. And I've had opportunities to do that, and I just won't.
In this term, have you?
Leading up to this term.
He asked, "What of you?"
He didn't ask directly. He had someone on his behalf say, you know, Chris could come back in the family if he wanted to, but he has to apologize.
Did they float a position?
No. This is like, again, it's step.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can get back in the family.
Yeah.
It's not at all like a mafia situation.
No,
because in the mafia you can't apologize.
Yeah. So when that incredibly hot blonde came up to you at the diner the other day, you're like, maybe I should.
Well, I will tell you, there was another person, and I got to be very vague about this, but there was another person who was approached as well by the same person, by the same prostitute, and with the same scam. And he said no both times.
And you presume the person who sent said prostitute was the same person too?
Yes. And I asked the guy, "So tell me, like, why didn't you?" And he said, "Because I thought there was something strange about it."
Yeah.
And I said, "Why'd you think that?" And he looked at me and he goes, "Because I have a mirror."
Yeah.
It was
That's
a great,
never stopped Moynihan.
absolutely great.
Yeah, it's never stopped me.
Great moment of self-awareness.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
The guy's
yeah.
like, this incredibly good-looking woman is like,
Yeah.
trying to pick me up. Like, something's fishy
Yeah.
here. Like, he didn't know exactly what it was. And I'm sure he didn't presume that
Yeah.
it was what it was. But he just said like, and I said, why? And because I have a mirror. So that guy's a hero. to
As
me.
a hero.
A hero of complete self-awareness.
Matt, you have a very important question. I don't want to take it from you.
Yeah, thanks. I don't remember what that was,
You
but
don't. It's a very important question. And I want you to frame it in a
correct.
way
Yeah, sorry.
that is giving a value judgment on the song that you were asking about, because it is a shitty song.
Yeah.
Would you like to ask the governor about this particular song?
you're a Springsteen fan.
I am.
Long time.
Yes.
We've seen the videos of you dancing.
Yep.
We love your enthusiasm.
Which, by the way, is worse than the video with the prostitute of you dancing. Yeah.
But at least it's legal.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I don't know if it should be.
Well, that's look,
like,
run for
yeah.
Congress and give it your
Yeah.
best shot. But
Yeah.
worse or better than Bruce's dancing and dancing in the dark video? Unclear.
Oh, can we watch it? We have it. Is it okay if we watch it
well,
at 10th Avenue Freeze?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this
there
is.
we are. I'm actually governor at that point.
Yeah.
Look at you.
You should have been impeached, right? Well, I'll show you when you should have been impeached. Right there.
Yeah.
That's impeachment.
Yeah. Who's helping me out there?
It's my son.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
My oldest son.
Dressed up.
Yeah.
I act in far more embarrassing ways at concerts,
And
but
that's
I'm not a governor.
By the way,
Yeah.
that is like in the mid-range on my embarrassing conduct during shows. You
Really?
could get other videos.
I just pulled the first one.
Well,
but
see,
you-
my point is like you it's kind of a fail.
I was like, the fail. Those are not the best seats. You should have had better seats than that.
that was
You're
that
governor.
was the governor's suite.
Oh, is that where he puts you?
That's the governor.
Yeah.
No, not where
Yeah.
the governor has that suite at MetLife Stadium for
Oh.
anything that happens there.
And so you were up there, and then Daniel Ortega of the Sandinistas was on stage with Bruce Springsteen.
Well, they're more philosophically, married to each other than the boss and I are.
You have to admit that the new song about Minneapolis is terrible.
Come on.
That's just a bad.
Well, how about if I say this?
What Trump is like, the Trump people, they'll make excuses for him. He'll make excuses for Bruce.
No. I'm
Yeah.
going to say that I think that it was a fast and emotional attempt for him to express himself.
God, he just loves
He's a
it.
politician, isn't he?
But it is. That's what it was.
I know that's what it was, but it sucked. Like, he did a fast, emotional, shitty thing.
All right, so
Yeah.
But with any artist, they never hit 100%.
Yeah.
And there's songs of his that I don't like. Plenty.
Give me one that you really don't like.
Like that we know. That's
Yeah.
not
That
the
you know-
Ghost
that
of
you
Tom
know,
Joad.
yeah.
No,
not
all
Ghost
right.
of-
So
Yeah.
we're eliminating the entire Ghost of Tom Joad album.
Yeah, that's
like
a mistake.
57 channels and nothing's on.
horrible
terrible
song.
song.
It's a horrible
Right.
song.
I just
It is. You should have written a law in New Jersey banning the song in New Jersey. It's a terrible
But
song.
don't worry, nobody was playing it anyway.
No.
No, 57 channels and nothing on. There's a few things from Human Touch and Lucky Town
Lucky
that
Town.
I could do
Yeah, it's a
without.
double. It's a double
Yeah,
disappointment in a lot of ways.
in
Some
some
good
ways.
songs on it.
Some
though.
is good.
Yeah, yeah.
Certainly like Brilliant Disguise, I think is good, and
Great.
Two Steps, and
Yeah.
there's a number of good. Lucky Town itself is not a bad song, but yeah. Now look, sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss.
What is your relationship with him? Because
It's really good.
It's like, what does it look like? What do you guys?
We text, we talk.
Do you?
Yeah.
Because everyone loved, there is a greatest hits compilation of people, and I think it's one of your great moments, and I showed it to Jason today, our producer, of some, I guess, supporter of yours in a town hall kind of thing saying, will you go home and destroy your Bruce Springsteen CDs? And you have a very good answer on this, which is something that I agree with, of separating the art from the artist and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But there's been a long time thing of trying to pit you against Bruce Springsteen.
He wrote letters to the editor against me in New Jersey newspaper when I was first elected.
Really?
First in office. He didn't like my first budget. And, my comms director at the time used to say to me.
It's pretty impressive, though, that Bruce Springsteen doesn't like your budget. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
Right? So she used to say to me all the time, don't read the comments online.
Yeah.
And don't read the letters to the
Bruce
editor, right?
Springsteen.
And don't read the letters to the editor in general.
Yeah.
So I didn't.
Yeah.
And so she comes in one day and she says to me, I need to talk to you about a letter to the editor. I go, oh, no, no, no.
Yeah, you don't talk about it.
I'm not allowed to read letters to the editor,
Yeah.
so we don't need to talk about it. She goes, this one's a little different.
Yeah.
And I said, really? She goes, it's from B. Springsteen in Rumson.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
no. And she goes,
Yeah.
yeah. So she handed it to me, and it was like, his budget is inhumane and this and that.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And so there was a time. So let's say when I first got elected, when I was U.S. attorney, he liked some of the stuff that I was doing to clean up Asbury Park, and I put a number of people, Asbury Park officials, in jail for corruption. He liked that.
Yeah.
Then I got elected governor, and he didn't really like that too much because I was a Republican. Am a Republican. Then Sandy happened. And when Sandy happened, he loved my response to Sandy and how I dealt with the aftermath of it.
And you get a lot of shit for that because of,
Obama
you made out with Obama on the beach or something. This is how it was framed, right? I'm just saying, everyone's like, I was hugging. I love it. That was a criticism
the
of you.
allegation was that we hugged and we didn't, but we could talk about it.
Yeah.
So,
right, made out was a little much, but
post Sandy, we were great, and then Bridgegate happened.
Yeah.
And he went on Fallon, and the two of them did a song about Bridgegate.
Oh, wow.
That's brutal.
Was it better than the shitty song about Minneapolis?
Well, objectively, I'd have to say yes.
Yeah.
But personally, I didn't quite think so. and so then I was pissed. So I wasn't talking to him. Then that next year, we happened to run into each other at the airport. So like if I get to the airport early, which I did this one time with my family, we were going on a trip, they don't let me sit out in the area. They give me a room to stay until we have to get on the plane. And so my troopers came across the hall and said, I don't know if you're gonna want to do this or not, but Mr. Springsteen and his family is in the room across the hall. They're waiting to go on a flight. And he found out you were here and he asked if he could come over and see you. So, all right, he can come over.
What year is this?
This is 2015. I said, oh, yeah, he can come over. So he comes over and Patty comes over. And so Patty's talking to my wife and our kids are interacting with each other. They're relatively similar aged. And it's just me and him. He's like, so how's it going? I go, yeah, it's all right. And I'm definitely playing like, I have no interest in talking to you. And he said, I should have done that song thing. He goes, I feel bad about it because it was piling on and you didn't do anything wrong. And he said it was wrong. So I just wanted to say, I'm sorry.
Wow.
So he came over for that purpose.
I don't know that he came over for that purpose, but it happened pretty quickly. And I just said,
you hugged him.
Of course.
Yeah.
You hugged him.
I don't know that we
Tighter
hugged. I
than
don't remember.
Obama.
I would have been willing to,
Yeah.
but I don't know if we did. And I just said, apology accepted. That's fine. Then I ran for president and that didn't enamor him too much. And then I guess it's about 3 or 4 years ago now. I was at a show in Brooklyn at Barclays, and I was in the pit with my son and my wife. And during the show, I said to my wife, I said, Bruce just pointed at me and smiled. And she goes, yeah, sure he did. She goes, Chris, he points and smiles at the audience all the time. Like, he wasn't pointing at you. I go, no, he really was. I said, I could tell. We like our eyes locked, like I could tell. And then so for the rest of the show, my wife and my son just were mocking me. He just smiled at me. He just waved at me. I'm like, okay, thanks.
I was really hoping that he would pull you up like the Dancing in the Dark video. But
Yeah. No, that's not happening. So we leave, the show's over. We leave the show, get in my car. We're riding back to Jersey. And my phone rings. It's like 11:45, and it's a 732 number that I don't recognize. So I answer it, like Chris Christie, and he goes, hey, Gov, it's Bruce. Like my son was like, no way. I didn't even know how he got my number because I'd had a different number at this point.
He's Bruce.
And I found out, by the way, how he got my number. But so he just said to me, he said, I was watching you down there in the pit, and I looked at the two. I'm like, you told you he was looking at me. And he said, you guys were having a great time. And he said, I want you to know, I really respect you. I know that since you ran for president, we haven't talked that much and ever. He goes, but I have a lot of respect for you. And he said, I want us to be friends. And I just let's put the politics stuff aside. Let's just be friends. And I was like, I went to my first show when I was 13.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm like, yeah, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And since that time, we've been regular correspondence. He's taken me to shows of his, taken me and Mary Pat to shows in Spain and in Milan and in London. Hosted my daughters in London at a show, and he's been a very, very good friend. And when I went to Ukraine when I was running for president, like he called and said, like when I got back, he's like, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, it was kind of scary, but I'm okay." And he said, "Can I come over? I want to hear all about it." So I turned to my kids. We're at our beach house, and I said, "Oh, we're having a guest this morning, so you straighten up a little bit." And they're like, figuring it was a politician. They're like,
yeah,
who's coming? It's Olivia Nuzzi with the current cake again. and I said, they go, who? And I said, Bruce. And they were like, Springsteen? I'm like, yeah.
No,
they're
Hornsby.
They're like,
of course.
They're like, no, really? And I'm like, yeah. And 45 minutes later, he is walking up the front steps and sat there for 2.5 hours asking about Ukraine and what the experience was like and whatever. So it's been a really good relationship. Now, Obama and the hug.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So we
Matt.
knew the kiss and the hug.
No, there was no kiss.
It's all right.
Barack Obama.
We're very
Let me
open
tell you
about
something.
that here.
I would be willing to kiss Barack Obama or anybody else for that matter who does a nice thing for me.
Oh.
But he's not the type.
He's not.
Yeah.
Well,
He's not
have you
Mr.
not watched Tucker Carlson's show?
He's not Mr. Warmth, right? So
That's true. No new friends. Right?
yeah, right. But
Yeah.
when Sandy was going on, and remember, I was the keynote speaker for Romney at his convention.
I saw that.
I was the number one fundraiser for him across the country. So it wasn't like Obama and I were close. But Sandy happens, and the president calls and says, Sandy happened on a Monday. The president calls on Tuesday morning and says, I want to come tomorrow and see all this for myself. Now we're 6 days from the election. And so, I know that this is going to be a political thing, but
Yeah.
I've got the worst natural disaster in the history of our state. I need the president's help.
Sure.
The president wants to come. I said, President, you tell me where you're landing and I'll be there to welcome you and to show you around. And so we went, he landed, he comes down the tarmac, and this is exactly what we did. He came down, let me get this out of the way.
But
Yeah.
I don't. I kind of scared of this.
Shook hands and he went like this. I'm Obama.
Okay.
And he put his hand on my shoulder and then shook hands. That was fun.
That was the hug. It
Now,
was a little close for me, to be honest.
well, you
we
think
cut
close
that
for
out?
you. Imagine it was Obama. And
Michael?
and this became
Chris?
the hug, in part because then we did a press conference afterwards, and they asked me, how's the president
Yeah.
done so far? And I said, look, I have no complaints. The president's done a great job. Everything I've asked him to do so far, he's done, and I trust he'll continue to do the same thing. So I think they were as upset about the rhetorical hug as they were about the physical handshake. What was I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Fist
And you
bump
had
him or what?
had no relationship with him beyond Sandy. You weren't,
No, prior to that, I had met him because the governors go once a year to the White House for a dinner. Yeah. But I mean, other than taking my picture with him, and he called me the day I won to congratulate me because he was president at the time. But I mean, that's it. Pure ceremonial stuff, no relationship.
Not in that is true that he's not a particularly warm guy.
He's very he's
not Clinton. I mean, Bill Clinton is amazing at that, right? The hand on the shoulder is just standard.
The gold standard. The guy is the gold standard. And I have a great story about Clinton I could tell you. But so Obama.
You could.
So, and I will.
It's a podcast.
So Obama.
We tell stories.
So Obama, we get done with the press conference and we get on Marine One to fly up the coast to show him the damage on the coastline. And so we're sitting there waiting for the helicopter to take off. And he said, Chris, by the way, I can't thank you enough for the kind things you said at the press conference. I know it's kind of a sensitive and awkward time and you didn't have to say nice things. And the fact that you did, I want to let you know I really appreciate it. And I said, well, Mr. President, it was the truth. And I was going to tell the truth. I wasn't going to lie and say you're doing a bad job or a mediocre job, because you're not. Everyone's been really great so far. And then there's this awkward silence, right? Now what do you say? And I looked at him, I go, I'm not voting for you, right? and he goes, oh, the things I'm worried about 6 days out, your vote's not one of them. I'm like, all right, well, good. As long as we're good there. But the guy knows how to return a favor. Right now, I did it because it was the truth. The next year, I'm running for re-election. And I invite him to come back because we had rebuilt a number of the boardwalks already at the Jersey
John
Shore.
Corzine.
No, I'm governor.
Yeah.
Barack Obama's president.
And he's running again. You're running again.
I'm running.
Oh, you're running.
I'm running for re-election.
Yeah.
And so I invite Obama to come on Memorial Day weekend to ceremoniously reopen a number of the boardwalks. And so he says, okay. So he comes and we do this thing in Asbury Park where we had rebuilt the boardwalk, and the woman who's the Democratic nominee against me was asking him for a meeting while he was in the state. And he told me at the time, like, I'm not taking any meetings. I'm not going to make this political. I want to make this like we did for Sandy. This is not partisan. That's sad. She came to the event in Asbury Park anyway and stood on the rope line. And so Obama and I are then working the rope line, not knowing that she's there.
Wow.
Obama and I are working the rope line, and all of a sudden there's my opponent. Mr. President, I'm Senator Barbara Buono. I'm running for governor and against him, and I would love to talk to you. And Obama's like, oh, great to meet you. And then we keep going. She then puts out a statement. The essence of it was, like, I had an opportunity to talk to the president today about the problems here in New Jersey and how Governor Christie is the cause of it. It was all like completely made up. The White House put out a statement saying the president never met with the Democratic nominee for governor today while he was in New Jersey. He was there on a nonpartisan visit to look at the recovery progress in Sandy.
Wow.
And my press person came to me with it, and it's like, wait till you read this. And I looked at it and I just started to smile. And she said, what do you smile? Oh, I smile. And I said,
favor.
He's a Chicago politician.
Yeah.
Like, at core, he's a Chicago politician. I told the truth back in the fall of 2012 at a time when I could have gotten away with lying, given all the circumstances, and I didn't. And he came back in May in the middle of my reelection, never came to New Jersey and campaigned for her, never raised money for her, nothing, zero. And so, I mean, I have a lot of respect for him as a practitioner of the craft.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like,
undeniably,
he knows he got
very
a benefit from it, and he wanted to
and that cost him
repay
very
that
little
benefit.
to do that.
Very little to do it. And the great moment of it was we were playing some games on the boardwalk, and he fancies himself a pretty good athlete. And so he goes to the football toss, toss the football through the tire thing. And so he throws, I don't know, 5 or 6 of them and doesn't get it through. And I'm standing in the back because it's the president's gig. He wants to do this. And the guy running the booth, he's like, Gov, come on, man, you do one of those. And I'm like, no, this is the president's game. Let the president play this. And Obama goes, oh, you don't want to throw one?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So the guy
slapped with the white glove.
Right. So I went like this. So the guy threw, and just pure luck. First throw right through.
Right through?
Right through the tire.
Spiral?
Tight. And and so I if you do it on your first throw, you win choice of the stand. So they're like, the governor wins choice. He wins choice. What do you want? And up near the top, there was a big, like maybe like this big, Chicago bear. So I said, give me that one. So I gave it to Obama.
Oh, that's great.
I said, here's the Chicago bear.
Take it out in the helicopter with him.
He took it with him.
Really?
He took it with him.
Threw it out the helicopter like
He threw it out into the Atlantic Ocean. But he took it, and he goes, as we're walking away, cameras are following us. So he's whispering, and he goes, you got to show me up, right? And I said, dude, I'm the one running for re-election, not you. Yeah. And he goes, good point. I go, thank you. So Bill Clinton, the first time I ever met Bill Clinton, and the reason why this story is fun is this. The first time I ever met Bill Clinton was at Donald Trump's wedding.
Oh. Where was
So,
Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't know. He may have been there.
Yeah.
Fortunately,
I just drove him there.
Fortunately, I never took a picture with him if he was there. But so we're at Trump's wedding to Melania in January of 2005.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
In Mar-a-Lago. And there are probably like 300 people there, right? So there's this big cocktail party after the ceremony, before the reception. And I'm U.S. attorney at the time. No one knows really who the hell I am. And so my wife and I are kind of like standing back away from the crowd, just watching the menagerie of like Don King and Tony Bennett, Billy Joel, Shaquille O'Neal, Rudy Giuliani, George Pataki. It was just like a menagerie of all these different types of people. And we see Bill and Hillary. Now, Hillary is standing in front of a pillar, shaking hands and taking pictures with people, and literally has like a staff person doing the push and pull. Bill, on the other hand, is walking around the room, introducing himself to everybody. He's like,
By everybody, you mean hot girls?
I
Really,
mean
everybody?
Everybody.
Okay.
He's going up, and I'm watching from a distance. And I said to my wife, I go, see that? I said, that's why he was a 2-term president, and she never will be.
Yeah.
She's standing there like the queen, receiving her subjects. This guy is acting like he's interested in every person in this place. Well, eventually he gets around to us. And so he comes up, and he just goes, hi, I'm Bill Clinton. And I said, Mr. President, it's an honor to meet you. I'm Chris Christie. And he said, Chris, what do you do for a living? And I said, I'm actually the United States Attorney in Jersey. Oh my goodness. I got to tell you, that's a job I always wanted, be U.S. Attorney. He goes, I was Attorney General of Arkansas and Governor, of course, and then President, but I always wanted to be U.S. Attorney, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, well, it is a great job, Mr. President. And then my wife's standing next to me, and he turns to my wife, he goes, darling, what's your name? And he grabs my wife's hand, and he's shaking her hand with his right hand. With his left hand, he's rubbing her forearm.
Yeah.
And he goes, what's your name, darling? I said, I'm Mary Pat. He said, Mary Pat, you work outside the home?
You work outside the
Do
home?
you work outside the home?
That's a great 1940s question.
Right.
That's great.
And so she goes, yes, I work on Wall Street. And he turns to me, he goes, you dog. He goes, beautiful and rich.
Wow.
He turns back to her, and he's still
I kind of want to hook up with Bill Clinton now.
He's still holding her hand and rubbing her arm. And he says, darling, can I tell you something? And she goes, of course, Mr. President. And he said, he goes, that guy there is U.S. Attorney. He goes, he's going to be an ambitious guy, and he's going to want to go places. I could tell. Yeah. And he goes, and the only way you get someplace in this business, he said, you got a great woman making you feel important. Wow. And
then he just disappeared into a puff of smoke.
And she says, well, I do my best, Mr. President. Yeah. He goes, darling, I'm sure you do. Yeah. And he turns back to me and he goes, it's such a pleasure to meet both of you. And then boom. So maybe the whole thing was 90 seconds, right?
Jesus.
My wife looks at me after he walks away and she goes, I never voted for him, but I actually might consider sleeping with him. She goes, he's unbelievable. She goes, that was the most unbelievable 90 seconds I've ever seen. It's unbelievable. Wow. And I said, so when people, and I get asked this a lot, and I do certain speaking events or whatever about, political talents. And there is no one in my lifetime who comes close to him.
Yeah.
On just pure political talent.
Just charisma in a room. It's unbelievable.
The guy is just, whether you agree with him or not, you like him or not, you just admire the talent, the things the guy can do to relate to people.
Yeah.
And that's really his superpower.
I mean, it's a superpower. But the example of that I always used was Chris Ruddy, who runs Newsmax now, published a book a long time ago, basically accusing Bill Clinton of killing Vince Foster, basically. But it was like, he kind of, the lawyers, it was published weirdly by a mainstream publishing house, like a HarperCollins or something. The lawyers, made it in a particular way. But between him and Richard Mellon Scaife, and Richard Mellon Scaife, who was a big supporter of conservative causes in the 90s and ran the newspaper in Pittsburgh, basically ran the Arkansas Project against him of the Troopergate and all this stuff. Bill Clinton became very close friends with both of them. And I believe spoke at Scaife's funeral.
I think so, yeah.
And Scaife made it his career in the 90s, ignoring the family fortune, ignoring the newspaper, whatever, to go to crazy town on Clinton conspiracies. Yeah. And Clinton ends up befriending him.
And the other great thing about Clinton is he's a complete junkie about politics.
Yeah.
So then years later, I get elected governor, and I see him again at the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden. He winds up sitting in the row in front of me. And he's there with Terry McAuliffe.
Yeah.
And Clinton turns around and he's like, Governor, how are you? Been a long time since that Trump wedding, huh? Like, first off, I'm like,
been thinking about your wife for a couple of years.
Pretty good, I guess.
Good Lord.
I'm sure it wasn't me. So I said, well, it has been. He goes, I knew you'd do great. I could just tell. I knew you'd do wonderful. I'm like, oh, thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. President. And he goes, and by the way, he goes, you had some lines in that budget speech of yours a few weeks back that were gold. They were gold. You really pulled it off. And I'm like, come on. I looked at him, and I must have had a look on my face like, there's no way.
Get the fuck out. There is
no way. And he turned and he could tell that I was looking at him like, come on. And he goes, you think I didn't listen to it? And I said, tell you the truth, Mr. President, I don't. And he goes, and he repeated verbatim one of my lines from the speech. And I was like, he goes, don't doubt me, buddy. Don't doubt me. And then he goes into his pocket and he takes out a business card and he flips it over and he gets a pen out and he writes something on the back and he goes, this is my private number at the office up in Harlem. And he goes, I'd love for us just to sit down one day and just talk about the business because you're talented. Yeah, I'd like to do that. He hands it to me. I'm like, thank you, Mr. President. And McCall is finally like, he goes, Mr. President, you recognize he's a Republican, right? And he goes, oh, Terry, shut up. Because I'm talking about talent, baby. I'm not talking about Republican.
Did you make the call? Did you go up there?
Sure. Went up there and sat with him for 2.5 hours.
Huh. Just talking
shop.
Talking
some issues, talking tactics, approach.
Yeah.
Like the guy is not only naturally talented, but he's a junkie. He watches everything.
Yeah.
And he picks things out. He looks for talent. And he's just totally into it. And our relationship remained for years after that. And, he had me at the Clinton Global Initiative and a couple other things. And he would introduce me the same way. Like, this guy's an incredible talent.
And you should see his wife.
Yeah.
and his wife's good looking and rich too, it was just like, he cut like right to the chase. Like, that was the beautiful thing. She said, I work on Wall Street. You dog.
Yeah, you dog.
You dog, beautiful and rich.
Yeah.
She was just completely shaking her head.
Yeah, I have.
The guy's amazing.
Yeah.
Now compare that to some of the other presidents we've had in this era, and they just almost none of them. Trump is the only one that comes close to being able to have the ability to do that. He doesn't always do it. He doesn't have the discipline to do it all the time. Clinton, in a life that was relatively undisciplined, always had the discipline to do that.
W could work a room, which I've seen him do, and he has great recall of everybody. And what was his nickname for you?
Big boy.
Big boy.
Yeah.
Really went right for it.
Went right for it.
Went right for it.
Went right for it. Absolutely. No, I saw him a couple of months ago. He was doing a talk up in Connecticut and invited me and Mary Pat to come. And it was Sunday, and I went back into they said the president wants to see you in his green room, and Laura was with him. So we go back there, and he looks at me and he goes, you have the same suit and tie on you had on TV this morning. I'm like, well, first of all, Mr. President, thank you for watching. And secondly, yeah, I didn't change my tie to come and see you. And he goes, no respect. No respect. We're the same tie you wore on TV.
Shit talker. That's so great.
And then he gets up on the stage and he's saying things like, yeah, my man Christie's here. You all know Christie. He worked for me. Before he was a big shot, he worked for me. And he said, and he goes, he's the guy who put Jared Kushner's father in jail. I'm like, yeah. He goes, yeah, that guy was a real crook. Now he's the ambassador to France, Bush's charm is completely different.
Yeah.
It's a different charm.
Yeah. Different kind of charm. It's less calculating. It's less smooth, but it is like a from the hip kind of charm. He just say stuff that'll make you laugh out loud. And, he is his mother. He's so unlike his dad. I got to know Barbara Bush over the years, and
who was notoriously a bit ferocious too, wasn't she?
Yeah, and so's he.
Yeah,
not in public, but in private. If W thinks you crossed him, he has a very sharp tongue, and it's his sense of humor is Barbara. The sharp tongue is Barbara. He's very much like his mother, and he tells this great story about when his mother was dying, and the hospital. He was in Dallas, she was in Houston, and the hospital called and said, "She may only have a few more hours, Mr. President. Do you want to speak to her?" And he said, "Absolutely, sure." He said, "Well, here's the number. Call your mom." So calls his mother, and he says, "Mother, I just want you to know how much I love you, and how much you've meant to me in my life." And she goes, "Oh, she called him Junior." She goes, "Oh, Junior." She goes, "That's so good of you." She goes, "Thank you for calling." She goes, "I knew you were going to call. They told me you were calling." And she goes, "And the nurses here, they asked me, how did you produce a son like George W. Bush?" And you know what I told him, Junior? He goes, "No, Mom." She goes, "I told him I drank and smoked when I was pregnant with you."
last words.
That's literally close to her last words to her son. It's
fantastic.
And that's her sense of humor. Like she was in 2011 when people were trying to get me to run for president. My wife was working on the trading desk at the firm she was working with at the time. And, you know, if you've ever been into one of those, it's like people just sitting on a big desk, phones are ringing, and someone just answers. It's not like your own line. Someone answers the line. And so someone answers the line and says, hey, Mary Pat, you know, Barbara Bush on 12 for you. And she's like, what? She's Barbara Bush. And he goes, it was some woman who's pretending to be Barbara Bush. I don't know who it is, but you need to pick up. She picks up the phone and she says, Mary Pat Christie. And she said, Mary Pat, hi, it's Barbara Bush. And it was Barbara Bush. And she said, you know, she goes, the president and I, meaning her husband, have been talking about this race in 2012. And we both think that your husband should run. We think he's the guy most likely to win. He's the guy who could beat Obama. So I kind of thought you might be a little bit concerned because you have young children about what it would be like to have children in the White House. So if you want to sit down and talk about it, because I'd be happy to get together with you and talk about that and kind of try to put your mind at ease a little bit about the way that can be handled and how the kids can get through it just fine. And Mary Pat's like, well, Mrs. Bush, I'm completely overwhelmed. Like, I can't believe you're calling me. And Chris really hasn't decided to run. I mean, he probably is not going to run. And she goes, well, that's a mistake. And so I need to talk to him about that, but I'll call him about that. She goes, you and I'll talk about the kids. She goes, so here's my number. And she gives my wife her number. And that's the kind of people they are. Like, you know, they saw something in me that they liked and they wanted me to run. And so she's like, they're dividing and conquering, you know, and she's off going and doing that. And, you know, I ultimately got a call from President 41 telling me why I thought I should run. So, you know, the Bush family they really care about the country. They really are servants. And I think the way the president 43 has conducted himself in the aftermath of his presidency with all the stuff going on, just not saying anything, staying completely in the background.
Painting, and a very good painter.
And
too.
by the way,
and
and loves the stuff. Like we've been to the house, and he's taken both there and at the ranch, where he's got like a whole like studio built now at the ranch, a separate building where he does his painting there.
Can you get us a George W. painting for the set?
For Fifth Column?
Yeah.
It could be a view.
It could
I mean, you might
yeah.
have to pay.
I'll pay.
I'll
pay. They got money. They're not
but I think
hurting.
it's a matter of pride.
It's
I
a
don't
matter
think
of pride. Of course.
You know, like his
We
art
will
has some
pay
value.
if you could facilitate a George W. We've talked about it a lot, how I really like him as a painter.
And as
Joanna talks about it a lot. Yeah.
a post-president.
As a post-president, but I really like his. So if you can facilitate that transaction, we don't expect it for free.
Yeah.
We will pay for it.
Well, look, I'll work on it. And I can tell you this, there's one of his that I really want. He has this great painting of baseball caps, like on a pegboard, where like a pegboard would be like in a mudroom or something in a house. And he's got all these different like historical baseball caps that he paints on.
That's nice.
He does really cool stuff. And, you know,
2 for 1.
he tells
You
a
get
great
2
story,
views.
like when he decided he wanted to paint, which he had never done in his life. When he got out of the presidency, and he was interviewing teachers, and the guy he ultimately wound up hiring, the person he wound up hiring, said, "So what are you trying to accomplish?" And he said, "There's a Monet inside here. You just got to get it out."
Man, there's a Monet in there.
George W.
Watch my draft.
And he loves it. I mean, and you're right. He's gotten better and better. He's
Better
pretty
and
good.
better.
Pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, we'll even take one of the earlier ones when he's like, a
little iffy.
a little iffy. But so we want that. That is our.
You know, he's done a whole bunch of historical figures too. Is there a particular historical figure you're looking for?
Franco. No, I don't know anything. We'll take any shitty president. We'll take a Taft. Do you have a Taft? It's like
Taft would be
trading
great.
cards at
What
this
is
point.
Franklin Pierce?
Franklin Pierce would be a great one.
Good one.
Harrison or Pierce, if those are in the lower dollar.
Rutherford B. Hayes,
Yeah,
always.
it's like Andy Warhol silk screens of like nobodies.
I
Those
need
are
mutton
cheaper, right?
chops, that's all.
Yeah.
Some mutton chops.
Yeah.
That'd be
Well,
nice.
Chris Christie, Governor Chris Christie, you have been hired
Yeah.
for you're the third spot now that Kmele has a cold or whatever.
I'm not sure you're ready for this workload, but
yeah, we do
Well,
twice a week.
Twice a week,
Twice
really?
a week, it's a lot.
Yeah. But I'd have to come in here twice a week.
well, yeah.
You live
Yeah.
in fucking New Jersey. Come on. The transit. Didn't you fix the New Jersey Transit when you were governor?
No one did. No one has.
Yeah, last time I was on the path, it was on fire. I was like, just not even doing it.
No,
We'll send a car. You do once a month. You come in, the prognostications of Governor Chris Christie once a month. I mean, if you come with a painting from
if I
W.
come with a painting.
Yeah, we'll pay. Well,
Forget it. Then we're gonna have to really, talk a deal, like a long-term deal.
I'm very serious, by the way. If you could facilitate that, I would do a lot.
I'm sure you would.
I could do a supercut of all the times I've talked about his painting. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, it's actually true.
Governor Chris Christie, thank you
it's
for
a pleasure
coming. I
pleasure to
really
be here,
appreciate
guys.
it.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Fantastic. And the rest of you, look what you get in the show. It's amazing. So subscribe and go to the YouTube, etc. Bye.
We know of new method of attack. The Trojan horse.